Here today we'll be making a split pea soup. For that soup I will need 40 grams of butter, 400 grams of green split peas, 50 grams of bacon, 50 grams of leeks, 50 grams of carrots, 80 grams of onion, 1 clove of garlic, 80 grams of heavy cream, 2 liters of water, some salt, and a Bouquet Garni. First thing I need to do for that soup is I need to cut my vegetable. We're going to do a little mirepoix. So, you know, I'm emassing those like that. That's going to be just fine. You know, my carrot, my onion, I'm going to cut it in half here and then emasse it. For the bacon, I have my bacon here. Take those 2 strips and I'm going to cut them in what we call lardons. Le lardon. Okay, the other side right here. My leek is going to be emassé too. Make sure you wash your leek very well. You don't want any dirt into that leek. If you do, it's going to leave a terrible texture to your soup. So make sure you wash it well. Then you cut it like that. Okay, we are ready to start. I'm going to first put my butter into my pot here, and then I will add the bacon to it. Now the bacon, we want to render its fat. And rendering the fat meat, but it needs to cook slowly so the fat melts away from the meat. As it melts away, it's going to create a little bit more fat here for sweating our vegetable after. But you can't rush the sweating process. It needs to be done slowly on a very low heat. You do not want to develop any color on that bacon. If you brown it, then your soup won't be nice and green. It'll be a dark green and it's not as nice looking. So make sure, medium heat, just sweat your bacon slowly and nicely. When you see that it runs over fat, then you will add the rest of your mirepoix here. So that bacon has been sweating here for a good 2 minutes. It runs a lot of fat already. I'm going now to add my vegetable to it. And we're going to sweat those vegetables very well. So they release some moisture and increase their flavor. Usually if I was making a soup, a different kind of soup here, and there will be no bacon in it, I will add a little bit of salt. But here with the salt from the bacon, I'm not going to add any. If you need more salt, I will add it at the end when I check on the seasoning of my soup when it's done. If you see that it's getting a little brown in the bottom of the pan, you want to lower the heat. You're trying really to develop no color at all onto your soup. Very, very important. So the vegetables are well sweated. I'm going to add my split pea to that. Stir that in. I'm going to moisten it with my water. Add my Bouquet Garni to it. I'm going to wait for it to come to a boil. Then I will lower my heat and just let it simmer. That soup's going to cook around an hour on a very low heat. If you cook it too fast and it boils too much, you will evaporate too much of the liquid. And then your soup might be a little too thick. You can fix it by adding a little bit more water to thin it out. But again, make sure it's just low simmer so you don't lose too much of that moisture. Okay, my soup is done here. How do I know? Well, I tried it. The peas are completely breaking apart. This is a good sign. There's nice flavor. I'm now going to blend it. And one thing to remember is to remove the Bouquet Garni. This is very important because if you put that into your blender, that's not good. So we have it in the blender. Put my lid on, put that here. Make sure I'm on a very low speed to start. It's very important. You want the lid to blow up eventually and burn yourself. And you put that on low speed. Then you can bring the speed a little higher. I'm going to check to make sure it's nice and smooth. If it's not smooth enough, if your blender is not very strong, you might want to strain the soup after. Now if you're able to make it to a very, very nice and smooth consistency with a blender, you don't need to strain it. This is very nice here. The consistency is nice. It's not too thick. I'm going to put it back into my saucepan and add the cream to it. Check on the seasoning. And that will be done. Back on the heat with the cream. This is the finished touch. Now for presentation, I'm going to do a little whipped cream. I'm going to use for garnish. I want it thick, but I don't want it too thick. I don't want it to turn that into butter. Just thick enough so it holds well in that cornet that I made. I have a video on how to make cornet on my channel. It's very helpful when you need to make very precise decoration. It's like a tiny pastry bag. If you were to see that your soup is a little too thick, just add a little bit of water or stock to it to thin it out. It's not a problem. Just make sure that if you add anything cold to it, you bring the mixture back to a boil so you didn't cool down your soup. I'm going for what we call a soft peak. Just like that. That's ready. I'm going to put that into my bag here. I'm going to close it. I'm going to use that to make a nice little design on my soup. I'm going to re-season that. I tested, I know it needs a lot of salt and pepper. Soups are beautiful things, but if you don't season them well, they could be very boring. So make sure to check on your seasoning so all the flavor from all the vegetables come out. One thing I want to say about that soup, if you are not to use it all the day of which you're making it, and you're going to put it in your fridge and reheat it the next day or another day, you want to make sure that you add a little bit more water when you reheat it, and that you reheat it on a very, very low heat. Because that soup, as it cools down, becomes very thick. And if you don't be careful when you reheat it, you might just burn it. That soup can burn just like that. And after it starts burning, it's gone. You know, the burnt flavor goes all over that soup, and there's really nothing you can do besides throw it away and making a new one. So be very careful. That soup, any thick soup that you reheat, you need to reheat it on a very, very low heat, and usually you add a little bit of water to it so it doesn't get too thick. I'm going to present it in that bowl. I'm going to present it family style, but what I will do into that bowl, you can do exactly the same thing in individual plate. I'm going to cut the tip of my cornet here. And now I'm going to do what we call a web design. To go like that, I'm going to go all around nicely. Up. Now I'm going to use the tip of a knife Now with the tip of a knife, I'm going to draw lines this way. And I'm going to do the same thing, but the other way around, from this way. Now I'm going to garnish it with some croutons. Little croutons here. The crouton could be served on the side if you want, or on top like that. Usually what I do is I put a little bit here, and I serve some on the side also. Here it is, potage Saint-Germain avec ses petits croutons. Split peas soup with little croutons of bread. Thank you for watching, I hope you enjoy, and I see you next class. Bye bye.